So I apologize for the delay. I'm just giving a few more minutes here to see if we get some more people on.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that I'm the only one in here. There's usually a lot more.
Yeah, I'm wondering if everybody's still doing Command Con. Because yeah, I'm not seeing anybody else trying to get in, right? Like there's nobody in the waiting room.
That is weird.
And I think Aaron's, oh wait, here we got one more person. Okay, so now we got two people. I think Aaron's out of town. I'm gonna hurry and try to call Mara.
The command con thing just got over. I don't know if that's taking people a minute to.
Is this? Yeah, I know that it was still going on. So.
I just logged off of that one and then onto this one.
Oh, cool. Cool. Well, let's give people a couple of more minutes.
Can I ask you a question that I don't know if you'll know the answer? Well, you probably will.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have it's a potential like listing in a few months, but they grow a bunch of, the legal stuff, and they have like permits and everything. But when it comes to listing a house like that, do you advise them to remove like all of the marijuana that they have, so it's not in like listing photos and stuff like that?
Yes. So my general advice is to remove anything personal or anything that would really identify like who you are as a person. Yeah. So yes, is the quick answer to your question. Kind of the longer answer to your question, right? Like I also ask people, like I've had really, families that are, really devout to their religion that have a lot of things hanging on the wall and stuff like that. Yeah. I've suggested that, people take those down as well.
Okay.
And, like I understand that, marijuana is legal and everything else.
Yeah.
It's still somewhat controversial, right? So
yeah. Well, if somebody like goes on the property for a showing and they're like, was this place used to grow marijuana? Are you legally able to answer that, or is it up to the seller if they want to disclose that, or how does that work?
So the general rule is that your seller should give you direction as far as what to disclose, right? Okay. I'm gonna double check with Lily and see if there's any laws specifically when it comes to marijuana growth here, and if that needs to be disclosed.
Okay, because my mom, she kind of got me like the lead on there, but he has the permits and everything, and it's all legal. But I was like, I have no idea, like if they still had stuff there, or if someone came on and they were like, "Oh, this looks like it used to be a pot grow. Can you tell me if it was?" I didn't know if I could even answer those questions.
Yeah, give me your number real quick so I don't have to look it
Okay.
up. I should have it somewhere.
It's 541-821-2302.
2302.
And I just want to know the answers before, I were to even agree to that, to make sure it was like I knew everything about it.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident that you're safe. However, like I said, I am new to Oregon and I want to make sure that
Okay.
there's no laws that I am unaware of.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I am going to hurry and mute myself because we're at 10 after. And give Mara a call here real quick. Well, okay. I think we'll just go ahead and get started. And if more people jump in, they jump in. If not, they don't. I'm not too worried. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So, oops, sorry, let me one quick thing. All right. Okay, so last time you discussed lead follow-up communication with the purpose of opening the door to two-way communication. Today, we're going to talk about what happens next. Once you get a response from a lead, your goal is to convert that lead to an appointment. After lead generation, lead conversion is the most business critical activity that you need to master. If you don't have appointments, you won't have buyers or seller agreements. And without agreements, you're not going to have any sales contracts. And without sales contracts, you're not going to make any money. So before we begin, just real quick, tell me the progress that you guys have had in your phone calls and your success system from prior Ignite sessions.
Well, for me, right now, I don't have like a lot of contacts because I kind of work 8 to 5 at the same time. So it's going. I hosted 2 open houses over the weekend, but nobody showed up to those. They were kind of both busts, unfortunately. So I'm working on the contact details. I just don't know, like, honestly, a lot of people in my like personal database.
Okay. Yeah. And I can tell you, I have certainly had that problem before. When I I moved my real estate business at one point from Las Vegas to Salt Lake, and I did it to be closer to family. I have some family and friends in Salt Lake. However, I didn't have a big SOI, so I certainly understand that. And yeah, you just got to get out there and do your open houses.
I did enjoy it even though nobody came. Like I feel like open houses would be good for me, but everybody I know personally is either 18 or they're 19 or 20. Because I'm only 19.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of those people aren't even done with school yet, let alone are they looking to buy a house.
Yeah, no, believe me, I get that as well. So yeah, open houses, and whatever type of prospecting activities that you enjoy. This is kind of what we talked about last week, right? Do the things that resonate with you and do the things that you enjoy. And yeah, build that database. I don't know if you were online for a team meeting yesterday, but I showed a slide that was also showed today in CommandCon, that showed the number of contacts that different levels of agents have in their database, and then compared their GCI or their income against that number of contacts. And the thing that slide teaches us is that in order to get a six-figure income, and I understand that's what we're all working towards. In order to get a six-figure income, you need to have somewhere between 200 and 1,000 contacts in Command, assuming that Command's the database you're using, right? And if you get to that number and you follow up with them and you follow up consistently, and we'll talk more about that through today, right? That's going to get you to the income that you want to be at. That's how you're going to reach your goals. What other experiences or successes have we had in the last week? How about working with accountability partners? Is everybody working with accountability partners? And are there any ahas that you can share with me from that?
What's an accountability partner? You'll have to remind me.
Okay, so that's a great question. An accountability partner is this. An accountability partner just simply helps keep you accountable. And the easiest way to do that, at least in my opinion, is that the two of you meet once a week, talk about what your goals were for last week as far as, number of contacts, appointments, so on and so forth. Did you meet your goals or not? If you didn't meet your goals, what are you going to do differently this week? If you did meet your goals, are your goals this week going to stay the same, or are they going to adjust? And then the conversation turns and your accountability partner has that same, gives that same message to you, right? Like, what were their goals for last week? Did they meet their goals? And what are they going to do different, or what are their goals this week, right? So that's what an accountability partner does. And I really suggest that everyone get an accountability partner if you don't have one. They are very beneficial. I've actually got a couple of accountability partners that I work with for just for different reasons. So really suggest that. Any other ahas or any other questions before we get started? All right. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about lead conversion, how to convert a lead to an appointment, improving your conversion rate, and then, as always, we'll finish up with some recaps and some ahas. So let's start thinking about the things that you want to learn today when it comes to lead conversion and follow-up. Does anyone have any questions, again, before I get started? Or does anyone have any points that they want to make sure that I get to today? Okay, If you think of anything, chime in, put it in the chat, like whatever's the most convenient for you. And like I said, I want to answer all your questions, right? This isn't beneficial if your questions aren't getting answered. So yeah, so if you think of something, let me know. All right, let's talk about lead conversion. Often people assume that lead generation and lead conversion are the same, and that is simply not the case. At its core, lead generation is when you turn activities, that's prospecting and marketing, into leads, right? So you go out, you hold your open house, somebody shows up, you meet them, you get their contact information, and boom, now you have a lead, right? That's your prospecting activities turning into leads. Lead conversion happens after you've captured that lead, and it's part of the lead follow-up. It's unique because these activities that turn leads into appointments are how you're going to turn those appointments into transactions. Anyone have questions before we move on? All right. So Gary Keller tells us in Shift, the effort you give to convert leads must match the effort you give to generating them. Why do you think that is?
Because if you generate a bunch of leads, that's not going to do you any good. If you're not going to convert them into appointments, that's going to, lead to sales and income down the road. Then you're basically just wasting your time generating the lead if you're not going to convert the lead. That's
correct. That's correct. There's no reason to generate the lead if you're not going to do anything else with it, right? Was everybody on CommandCom, by the way?
Yes. Or
especially that last, I don't know if everybody saw this slide, but it said that the average agent only calls leads 1.5 times, right? Only follows up with leads 1.5 times, yet 23% of all opportunities don't happen until after the 4th call, right? So follow-up is extremely important. I've got my best friend, in fact, he's a loan officer and he's actually one of my accountability partners. He says like his famous saying is the money's in the follow-up, because he makes more money in following up than he does in lead gen to begin with. All right, so turn to page 3 of your participant guide, and let's talk about the lead conversion process. So converting a lead to an appointment is a process that can happen quickly, although in some cases it happens slowly, right? Shift tells us that consistently getting every possible appointment from the leads you generate isn't complicated. It does require preparation, practice, and purposeful action. This starts at the top of the model with capture. You've got to capture the correct information and enough information to be able to contact that person. Then you move to connecting, building a connection, gaining information, and building trust. And finally, you close for the appointment. Without an appointment, conversion never happens. So when the conversion step does not result in an appointment, what do you think we do next?
Follow up.
Oh, go ahead. Give you a clue. It's number 4, right here.
Oops.
Yeah, so we continue to cultivate the lead, and we continue to follow up with that lead regularly until they are ready to convert to an appointment. After lead generation, lead conversion is the most business critical activity that you must master. Okay, this is where your possible business that comes from lead generating activities turns into probable business, and then ultimately profitable business. Converting the lead to an appointment has so much importance because it's how you have a chance at earning income. Converting appointments to business is also a key to economic success. You'll learn more about converting the appointment to business starting on page 4 or on day 14 of Ignite. Sorry. Until then, we're going to focus on how, now that you know the why. What ahas does anyone have so far?
You said something about how like some people only follow up on leads 1.5 times. Is that what you
Yeah.
said? So on
Yeah,
my
that's
for me, since I'm on a team, they're really like they spend 3 hours every morning calling leads, and they're really big up on like following up way more than that. I call
oh yeah.
into her calling in, and she'll follow up with them, and they're like, oh, we're still waiting, and then she'll be like, okay, well, is it okay if I call you in 2 weeks, or in a few months when you're ready? And she constantly follows up with the people she hasn't even talked to in months. So I think like that's important too.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I appreciate that comment. That's exactly the point that we're getting at here is following up once or twice isn't going to cut it, guys. You really need to follow up multiple times. People will not answer the phone several times, right? Guess what? That's just the way it is. There's a lot of times my phone rings and I don't answer it. I don't have time, right? Like I'm on another call, I'm working, I've got something else happening in my life. I just don't have time to take that call. And guess what? Generally speaking, I am like every other consumer out there. And if somebody in sales calls and leaves me a message, I usually don't call them back, right? And I feel somewhat bad saying that because again, I am in sales and I get a lot of phone calls not returned to me. So I understand the pain as a salesperson that you feel when that happens. On the same note, if they're good, they're going to call me back. So I generally don't call somebody back unless I'm like, oh, you know what? I really need that right now. And in real estate can be pretty competitive. So it's very common that if you're not calling them back, your competition is calling them back. So that's why it's important to follow up. All right, in this section, we're going to get into the specific steps of lead conversion and talk about how to convert leads to appointments. This model will help provide structure for success and lay the groundwork for future accomplishments. So let's turn to page 4 of our guide. And let's talk about the lead conversion process. The capture page, capturing leads is what we're talking about specifically on this page. At its simplest, capturing is collecting the minimum amount of valid contact information for a potential buyer or seller. This should include their name and a way to get a hold of them. Email, phone number obviously works best. Most likely this is going to occur when you're generating leads. Tell me, what are some ways that we capture or collect information from potential leads?
Facebook ads.
Yep, social media ads. That's a great one. What else is there?
We use like a actual lead generator system, and they have to register on like our website, and then they give us like their email and phone number, so all of their contact information is kind of already in there.
Yeah, exactly. What else do we have? How do we capture contact information at, say, an open house?
I have when I did it this weekend, even though nobody came, I had a sign-in sheet that had they could put their phone number, their email, and if they're working with a realtor or not.
Yes, perfect. And those types of forms, we can use those when we're door knocking. We can use them, they don't have to fill them out. We can fill them out for them, kind of thing. But yeah, those types of forms, that's how we capture the leads. And then we, from there, migrate them into our database or our command. So when you're capturing, it's important to know what you're going to say before you start the conversation. So in your participant guide, there's some conversation frameworks. So we've got some examples like, if I were to need to contact you, what would that number be? If I found exactly what you're looking for, how would I contact you? If I found the information that you're wanting, how would I get it to you? Right? So for this first step of capture, you need to have a system in place. Capture all your leads in your database and continue to cultivate the relationship using various touch campaigns. All leads may not be ready for an appointment, so your goal is to then gain mind share and continue to stay in close emotional proximity so that when they are ready, they think of you, right? So there's an activity in your participant guide that's going to help make sure that you have a system in place for your capture. Work on this for independently, and then we are going to share afterwards. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. Does everybody have their participant guide open to page 4? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to just kind of on your own fill in those boxes, Sarah. How you're doing, how you're capturing leads, what information you're capturing, what are your current lead strategies or tags, and what can you do to improve your current capture system. Okay, so 2 minutes starting now, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Thirty seconds left. All right, how are we capturing or currently capturing leads?
I haven't done any paid advertisement. So far I've just been working with my sphere of influence, people that I already know, reaching out to them, creating conversation, and kind of letting it build from there. Is there something else that I should be doing instead of that?
No, that's perfect. That is a great way to get started. What else is anyone doing?
I tried to run a Facebook ad, but it was kind of weird where it wouldn't let me put the Facebook ad in like the Southern Oregon area. It told me I couldn't do that. So that kind of way of finding people failed because my ad went to like Oklahoma and Ohio and everywhere but Oregon. I don't know why it did that, but I did try.
Okay, so I know you're on a team, or I know that you said that you were on a team. Do you use Command? Do you guys use Command?
Yeah, we use Command. I actually have somebody that she does like most of my Command stuff. So I'm not too familiar with it yet.
So I want to say in Command can help you target an area. Here's the thing. We used to, so about 5 or 6 years ago, Facebook would let you target whomever you wanted for ads, right? So so for example, if I had a luxury listing, I would go put my Facebook ad in, the area where the listing was, and I would limit that ad to people that say made 100,000 a year plus, depending on, if it was say a million 5 luxury listing, I would up that number to 200,000, right? In household income. Then somebody at a federal level stepped in and told Facebook, you can't let realtors advertise that that way any longer because it's violating fair housing. So Facebook became a little bit more difficult to use when you're really trying to target an audience for real estate ads. And you have to remember that it's not always people looking at your ad, and the system doesn't always apply the rules correctly, and it usually applies them in a more conservative way than it should, in my opinion. Using Command for your Facebook ads will help you through that, though.
Yeah, because when I first submitted it with the target audience, it denied it, and then it said I had to set it to general, and then when I looked at the rules, it was like for housing posts, it's like it was bringing up like discrimination and stuff like that, and I was so confused.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So yeah, that's exactly what they were trying. And don't get me wrong, I understand why they were trying to, why there were some fair housing violations. However, on the same note, it has become somewhat more restrictive. And like I said, I know Command knows the way to get your ads placed so that, number one, they're compliant. And number two, they're going to the audience that you want them to go to. So let's talk about what information people are collecting when they're capturing leads. Who can share with me there?
Well, you can capture like their phone number, their email address, and like when they're looking to buy and like their time frame.
Correct. What else are we capturing?
I think that their birthday is another thing that is good to have because that's another touch point to reach out to them. So if you don't have that, then you can't obviously reach out to them or send them a card if you don't have their birthday.
Yep. If you can get their birthday, anniversary day, anything like that, I am a huge believer in those campaigns.
Kids' birthdays.
Yeah, I mean, don't we all like to get a happy birthday card in the mail or a happy birthday text or something like that, right? Like it's a good idea if and when you can get those. And keep in mind that on social media, if you get your lead through social media, a lot of times you can capture that information, right? Okay, so what are your current lead categories or tags? Or I guess a better question to ask is, are you tracking where you're getting the most success?
I'm not currently, but in that command con that we just did right before this, the first people who presented talked a lot about the tags and how important it is. So definitely going forward, that's something I'm going to focus on. And they said that they tagged it for like everything, tagged if they had kids or if they liked a certain like team, or basically just any information that you had about that person. So that way they had more reason to reach out to them. They had more, I can't even think of the word, but like a more systematic way to reach out to people by having them tagged and separated by their likes and interests and so on and so forth.
Yep, exactly. And that's a really good point. The more tags that you can apply, and don't get me wrong, don't get so caught in the weeds that you're, looking at, say, 10 or 15 contacts over and over every single day, making sure that you have everything perfect, because that's not going to get you anywhere. However, the more tags that you can apply is helpful, because you never know when there's going to be some activity that's targeted to, say, pet owners, right? So a friend of mine in Salt Lake does a strut your mutt competition, she calls it, every year. And she gets pet owners to dress their pets up. And of course it's mostly dogs, but, dress your pet up and come to the park and, let's see who comes up with the most creative costume. So yeah, you never know when something like that's going to pop up and you're going to think to yourself, I wonder who my database has pets. I wonder who my database has kids. I wonder who might, right? So there are things like that.
I forgot what meeting I was in, but some lady talked about how one time she brought, I don't know if it was a lead or a client or what it was, but she brought her dog like an actual bone just to talk to her and like follow up with her. And I was like, well, that's definitely a way you could do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't have pets right now. However, I generally speaking have a pet. I'm a big fan of dogs. And so when somebody approaches me and starts talking to me about dogs, I immediately open up, right? It's a really easy conversation starter for somebody who's trying to look, who's looking to sell me something, is to, just start randomly talking about dogs. So tell me, what can you do, or what did you write on in your participant workbook as far as things that you can do to improve your current capture system?
I don't have the actual book, but a way I could probably improve my capture system is maybe just reach out to more of like the family I know who's older, because they, like my sisters and brothers, they probably have, friends who are potentially wanting to buy or sell. I just haven't, really called them that much about it because they're all in their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So I could probably work on maybe reaching out to my family members more and being like, look, do you have any friends who want to sell their house or are looking to buy soon and stuff like that?
Yeah, that is a great idea. And remember, last week I mentioned to you, the average person has 6 opportunities a year to refer somebody to you, right? So what I'm meaning there is this: on average, right, through just your normal day-to-day activities, going to work, seeing your friends and family and whatever, there's 6 times in the average person's life where they're having a conversation with somebody, and that somebody says, hey, I'm thinking about moving. And I, as your, SOI contact, your friend or your family or whatever, I have the opportunity to say, hey, guess what? I know a great realtor. Let me connect the 2 of you. right? So yes, that's exactly right. Stay in touch with your SOI and always be asking for referrals, right? Don't hammer them with questions of give me a referral, give me a referral, give me a referral. Call them, offer value, ask them, use the fourth script that we talked about last week, and then ask for the referral, right? Anything else before we move on?
I don't know how like this necessarily pertains to this, but I was gonna say, I'm not sure who was just talking, but whoever said that their sphere of influence was really young or in their 20s. I'm in my 30s, and we just bought our first house 2 years ago. And I wouldn't say that we were in any better of a spot in our 30s than we would have been in our 20s had somebody talked to us about buying a house in our 20s, and how much better of a position we would be in now in our 30s had we done it when we were 20. So I just think that might be a good mindset for you to have, that just bringing those conversations to your friends who might not be thinking that way but could benefit from it, even though you have that mindset like, oh, they're young, they're not in that space, they're not ready for that. I think that there are like people in that age range that would still benefit a lot from purchasing a house at that point.
Okay, yeah, I know one of my friends actually Snapchatted her earlier, and she's like, well, we might buy next year. And I was like, okay. So there's some of them, but like, I guess for me personally, a lot of the people I know I only have them through like Snapchat and stuff like that. So I guess it's I guess I'm more personal with some of my friends on like my social media. So I don't feel, I don't know, necessarily comfortable reaching out to them if I don't have like their phone number about like real estate stuff.
And okay, so while I understand that concern, that is something that really we all kind of have to work through when we first get into any type of sales environment. And here's the reason. Number one, they're going to view you as an expert if you start talking to them about real estate. Okay. Just by going through Ignite and just by getting your license, getting signed up with Keller Williams, and now going through Ignite, I guarantee substantially more about real estate than 99% of the people that you're going to talk to, maybe even more than that, right? So you are an expert, and you need to view yourself as an expert, and they will view you as an expert as well. And that's when the referrals start coming in. Number two, and I touched on this a little bit last week, if you'll remember, we like to help our friends and family, right? If somebody calls you up and says, hey, Courtney, would you help me? And it's somebody that you know, aren't you excited to say yes? I mean, even,
oh, yeah.
Right? Like even before I know what I'm going to help them with, I'm excited to say yes, because here's somebody that I know, my friend, my family member, whatever. My brother-in-law called me this morning, right? I was in the middle of watching Command Con, and he said, hey, I need some help. Do you have a minute? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, for you, right? And it was because it was somebody that I know, that I love, that I'm excited to help. So these people are excited to help you, and they are willing to help you. And like I said, they're going to view you as an expert very, very quickly as soon as you start introducing some of the terms and some of the stuff that you're learning here at Keller Williams to them.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing, I'm going to just interject with a quick story here. So I have some friends who, they were in their early 20s. They're brothers. Both of them were single. Both of them, got started in some, one of them went to a auto mechanic school, and got on with, one of the dealerships in Salt Lake City. The other one kind of moved his way up through retail and became a store director for a large national chain. And the two of them together decided, hey, we need to buy a house. right? We need to start building wealth. They were, like I said, they were in their early 20s at the time, and they looked at it and said, we need to, buy real estate, get into real estate. And so they went out and they bought a, 5 or 6 bedroom house. They bought a house way bigger than the two of them needed. And then they talked to their other friends who were in their 20s who weren't as motivated, that needed rooms to rent. And they rented the rooms out. And I will tell you, because I was really close with the brothers and they would often just come over to my house, they would chat almost every month about how neither one of them had to pay anything into the housing account, right? Like the two of them set up a separate checking account to pay the mortgage and all the bills for the house. And generally speaking, they would collect enough in rent from those other bedrooms that these two guys lived for free.
I can second that because I have a friend that also does that. He bought a house just on his own and he rents the other 2 bedrooms out. He lives in 1 bedroom and he doesn't pay anything. The other 2 bedrooms cover his mortgage completely.
Yep. And that's, I'm a single person. I've been single for way too long. My house in Salt Lake, I rented my basement out, and guess what? I set the rent amount at basically my mortgage payment. So, and I lived on the upper 2 floors of the house. He lived in the basement, or he lives in the basement, right? So the guy in the basement was paying the mortgage. I was paying the utilities. I was paying substantially less than he was to live in that house, like substantially less, like a third of what he was paying. And I had twice as much space, and I own the house, and I'm gaining the appreciation every month. Right. So this is absolutely something that works, and it works for younger people. And it's something that you can talk about with them.
My boyfriend and I have actually talked about that exact scenario before, like thinking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Because
I didn't have-
right now like $1,900 in rent.
Yeah. So we talked about the conversation
And it's just so expensive that it would be easier.
Exactly.
And that's a great.
If I were to contact you, what would that number be? If I found exactly what you were looking for, how would I contact you? And if I found out the information you're waiting for, how would I get it to you? Let's move on to page 5 of your guide. And let's talk about connecting with your contacts, okay? So now we've captured the contacts. The second step here is connecting. Connecting is laying the foundation for a working relationship. So what's important during this step is to listen, ask good questions, offer solutions, and keep the focus of the conversation on them. The goal of the communication, in addition to building the relationship, is to determine their urgency, give enough information to know how to prioritize the lead, and help you know what touch campaign you can use as a follow-up plan. So as you communicate and you connect, keep some best practices in mind, the ones on the slide here. First, embed your value proposition into the conversation so that you position yourself as the local expert. Has everyone built a value proposition yet, or has everybody at least spent some time thinking about it? If you haven't, I really suggest you do, right? So your value proposition is what sets you apart. It doesn't necessarily have to be unique to the rest of the real estate community. Your value proposition can simply be that you spend the most time getting information and training to help your clients, right? I mean, that's a great value proposition, because at the end of the day, if you educate your clients, they will come back to you, they will stick with you, right? Anyway, so the number 2 item is build and have confidence through knowing what you're going to say. So role play, practice conversations, right? Script practice, things like that. And then know your market data. Liliana does a great job every month at team meeting explaining our market data and telling us where the market is. Pay attention to those slides. It's really important. And then last, use backward design when thinking about your communication. Think about the intended outcome before starting the conversation. Use questions to help lead them towards the appointment, right? So know the outcome that you want before the conversation starts. And then you use questions to lead the conversation, right? So get somebody talking about themselves and you're asking them questions. That's a great way to build rapport with people. All right, moving on to pages 6 and 7 of your guide. Connecting is more than just small talk. Okay, your communication should seek to answer these 6 basic questions. Who are they? What do they need to know to do or want to do? Where do they want or need to do it? Why do they want or need to do it? When do they want or need to do it? And how do they plan to do it? Right? So these questions also help whoever you are speaking with open up to you. In your participant guide, again, on page, let's see, 6, you're going to see these questions and you're going to see some examples of what the conversation may look like. These may or may not work for your unique business. So take some time to plan out the framework for conversation that does work for your business. Make sure that you practice these conversations because it's going to help the conversation feel more natural, intentionally connect with the person, and qualify them simultaneously. And again, like we talked about last week, and I'm going to say over and over again, don't forget about the Ford method. The Ford script is a great script for connecting with people and again, getting people to talk about themselves. Have you ever had a conversation where the other person just kind of sat and talked about themselves the entire time? And later you heard feedback that that person commented that you had had a great conversation with them. Has that ever happened to anyone else? So I'm going to interject with a quick story. About 12 years ago, my former business partner and I were interviewing somebody that we were going to bring into our company. We were going to make her an escrow officer. And my business partner sat in that interview for an hour and did not stop talking about himself and the company the entire time. The woman that we were interviewing kept looking at me like, I don't know what to say. I don't, right? And my business partner got done talking about himself and talking about our company. The woman that we were interviewing got up and left. He got this great big smile on his face and turned and looked at me and he said, I really like her. I think we should hire her. What do you think? And I sat there and I looked at him and I said, I think you didn't stop talking the entire time she was here. I don't think she said 10 words and I have no idea who she is. So I called the woman back and brought her into interview just with me one-on-one. We did end up hiring her. She was a great fit. But the point of the story is he thought the conversation went great because he got to do all the talking and he talked about himself the whole time, right? That's a great person for you guys to sell to because that's the person, right? Again, get them talking about themselves. They're going to be really happy. Okay, so in your participant guide, we talked about this list of questions. And on page, let's see, 7 of your participant guide, it categorizes questions by buyers and sellers, and you can customize these and use them in your business, right? As you go through the connection process and cultivate the relationship, you'll learn more about the person and what they're looking to do. And as you learn if they're looking to buy and sell, you can start using these questions as well. Be sure to document your conversations and their outcomes in your database. Don't ever think that you're going to remember it all. You're not. You're going to talk to too many people. There's going to be too many conversations, right? So make sure that you document it in your database because that's going to help you know how to move the relationship forward And it's going to help you come from contribution in the future and help you assess how to prioritize the leads. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? All right, let's move on to page 8 and talk about cultivating. The goal in using lead conversion is to move immediately from capture to connect and to close. You're going to find a small percentage of leads that are not going to be ready to convert to an appointment. Keep mind share that you're going to use a touch campaign and stay in communication and cultivate the relationship until they are ready for an appointment. In Ignite, you've learned a lot about the touch campaigns, right? So we've got 19 to connect, 1 to cement, 36 to convert. You'll leverage and stay in close contact until you can get an appointment. As you start to implement your touch campaigns, you can always pursue creating your own touch campaigns to fit your business needs. And it's recommended that you start with the 3 that have been introduced first until you have a solid understanding of how touch campaigns work. Cultivation is a step in the model in which agents find themselves struggling. So why do we think that agents struggle in the cultivation stage? Are any of you struggling in cultivating your leads? No one has ideas? Okay, so agents often struggle during cultivation because they don't have the right systems in place, and thus they're not properly continuing to follow up with their leads, right? They let the lead slip, and then they get disappointed when they learn that the lead went with a different agent, right? Has anybody been around long enough to have that happen? You have a really great conversation with somebody and you're just convinced that that's going to be your, listing or your buyer or whatever. And then you learn that, oh, shoot, they went with somebody else. It does happen, right? You need to not let that lead slide because it's going to end up going to somebody else, right? So say, for example, we talked about open houses at the beginning of the call. Say, for example, you meet somebody at an open house. Guess what? Your open house isn't the only one they're going to, right? So if you're not following up with these people, your competition is. And then you get frustrated because now you're going, gosh, I've got, a lot invested here. I've got, my time invested. I went and did this open house and now it's all gone to waste. So we've got, 1 to cement and 36 to convert is the system that you need to put in place to cultivate your leads until they're ready for an appointment. Again, shift reminds us you can't know or predict when they're going to come to a decision. But if you're reconnecting with them in a systematic way, you'll have a great chance of being there when they do come to that decision. That's when you're able to close for the appointment. All right, turn to page 9 of your book, of your guide. And we are going to move on to talk about close. Come on, there we go. Okay, so on page 9, you're going to have more information on different types of closes, when to use them, and that should help you with your role-playing practice conversations. And you can use this as a resource after you're done with Ignite as well. When I first got into real estate, I always kept my Ignite info handy, right? In fact, for probably my first couple of years, I would go back and refer to information that I'd learned here in Ignite. So keep it around. Okay, so closing's when you actually ask for the appointment. So think of it in this framework. you're concluding one conversation and you're looking to see if another conversation can take place. It's your responsibility to ask for the appointment. This is where a lot of people fail, is they have the expectation that if the person's interested, the person's going to tell them they want the appointment. That's not the case, you guys. As a salesperson, it's always our job to ask for the appointment. Okay. So just like the touches you use to stay in emotional proximity have varying degrees of effectiveness, so does the format in which you ask for the close. You can do it in text message, an email, phone call, or in person. And let's just ask this: what do you think is the strongest or most effective?
A phone call or in person.
Okay. Anyone not agree with that?
In person.
Okay, you're right. The least effective options are in writing, text messages, emails, etc. Right? Since you're not communicating together in real time, you can't have an immediate response, and you can't give them an immediate response to any issues or questions that they have. So phone calls and in person are always going to have the best effect on your lead conversion. Just to give a quick example, I am looking to set interviews with ALC candidates this week. I sent an email out Saturday to everybody in our market center that was a candidate. And then this week I have to call them, or I've been calling them and saying, hey, did you get my email? Can we set an appointment? Right? Why? Because of the 15 emails I sent out, I had one person that actually clicked the link and set the appointment on their own. Everybody else was waiting for a call. And keep in mind, these are, these are people that know me, right? Like these are that you should know me. So yeah, in person and on the phone are always going to be your best ways to set up an appointment. So when you're setting the appointment, what are the important elements to schedule? Right? So in other words, you're on the phone with somebody and you're like, hey, so yeah, it sounds like, I understand your needs. It sounds like we should get together and talk about listing your home. When's a good time to talk, right? So the person says yes, they want to set up the appointment. What information do you guys want?
As much information as you could get.
Yep. Okay. That's correct. And that's always a correct answer. However, I'm gonna interject here a little bit and go off script a little bit. As soon as you get a yes, that's when you stop talking. I have seen it happen before. I've done it before, where somebody in sales gets a yes and they keep explaining what they're going to do and they keep talking. And all of a sudden that yes turns into a hesitation. And all of a sudden that hesitation turns into a no. And instead of setting an appointment, you hang up all disappointed because you realize I had an opportunity to set an appointment here and I blew it. So as soon as you get the yes, you need to immediately schedule the appointment, right? Like stop the conversation. Oh, yes, you want to meet? Great. Are mornings or afternoons better? Are weekdays or weekends better? Let me look at my schedule. I have this time on this day, this time on that day, this, give them 3 choices of times that you have available, right? The reason that you give 3 choices is because if you leave it open-ended, they're not going to pick a time. So you give them 3 choices. And then if they can't make one of those 3, then you start, asking for their input a little more, right? And you set the appointment at everybody's earliest convenience. I think I told you guys a story last week. I put off an appointment because I had something else I was doing and somebody swept in that day and got the listing. That hurt, by the way, right? And it was my neighbor. I felt confident that I didn't have to run the appointment immediately. So that hurt my ego, right? Okay, so as far as information, you're gonna convey to them when you set the appointment, the date, the time, and the location. Those are the three most important things to get out there. Keep in mind, location is important. We're gonna talk about this more in the transactions section when we cover buyer and seller consultations more in depth. The one thing to always keep in mind is safety. All right, let's move on to page 10 of your participant manual. In the end, if they can meet and have a good enough reason to meet, they will meet. And if they don't, they won't. And that's okay. You really don't care what their answer ultimately is because you're not getting people to do anything that they didn't or that they don't want to do. You're just going to ask and respond. Can you guys still hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I just got a message from Zoom saying I'd been logged out. And I'm like, wait, what? so, okay. Okay, so, and that's okay. You really don't care what the answer ultimately is because you're not getting people to do anything that they don't want to do. You're just going to ask and respond until they agree that meeting with you makes sense or it doesn't. Either way, you both win. Does that resonate with anyone else?
Yeah, because you don't want to be meeting with somebody who doesn't want to meet with you. They're not going to give you any good reviews or any they're not going to be happy with you if somehow you do like convince them to meet with you. That's not the goal, to just like have them meet with you if they don't want to, because that's not going to be valuable for them.
Exactly. And one of the other things that I really like in this quote is when it says you're not getting people to do anything that they don't want to do, right? There are other companies out there and there's other coaching companies out there where they teach you to just you just convince somebody that they want to move. It doesn't matter how you have to do it. And that is not the Keller beliefs, right? When you look at our Y4Cs, 2Ts, that's not what we believe in, right? So tell me, why does this type of mentality fit in with our culture and our Y4C, 2Ts? And by the way, the Y4C, 2Ts are on page 10 of your workbook. And I understand that you're all new and you're like, the what's?
Because they want it to be a win-win for everybody.
Yep.
Or you want, like you as an agent want it to be.
Yep, correct. Correct. So let's just real quickly go through the Y4C2Ts, okay? So first one is win-win or no deal. Second one, integrity. We always do the right thing. Third is customers always come first. Then we've got commitment in all things. Communication, seek first to understand. Creativity, ideas before results. Teamwork, together everyone achieves more. Trust starts with honesty. Equity, opportunities for all. And success results through people. So of those beliefs that I just read to you, where does this quote fall in to our culture? We already mentioned the win-win. What else?
I'd say communication. If you're not
Yep. Yep, you got to seek first to understand, right? And it's about them and their needs, right? What else? How about integrity? doing the right thing. And customers, always making your customer first. And trust, starting with honesty. Right? Can you see how all of these are really important to what we do? Any other ahas that anybody has at this point? All right, moving on to page 11 of your participant guide. So you've learned the model, steps, and actions that it takes to convert a lead to an appointment. And now we're going to dig deeper into what a conversion rate is and how it can inform your business decisions. So your conversion rate refers to the percentage of leads that you ask for an appointment to those that agree to the appointment. So for example, if you have 10 conversations today in which you ask for appointments, and in 8 of them you set appointments, that's an 80% conversion rate. Your ultimate goal is to increase your skills so that you can convert at the highest percentage possible. The higher the percentage, the more leads that convert to appointments, right? If you're converting at a low percentage, this should tell you that you have a lead conversion challenge. And the challenge is not the number of leads generated, but more your ability to get the appointment. So what questions do we have now? So sometimes the lead conversion is based on your total number of leads in your database, and sometimes it's just based on the leads that are being cultivated at the time. What is important is to evaluate your business and what works for you, and then repeat the same measure of success each time you calculate your conversion rate. Now, I'm going to, again, go off script a little bit here and tell you guys, you're going to have a low conversion rate in the beginning. All of us do. It's the way the business works, right? Like, I'm new to my team lead role. I promise I'm going to have a lower conversion rate when it comes to recruiting agents in here than, say, Kara down in Southern Oregon, or, you know, Jordan and Katie up in Portland, right? It's just the way the business works. Whenever we go into a new role, our conversion rate sinks. And that's fine. The way you bring that conversion rate up is twofold. Number one, think about it, right? Figure out what your conversion rate is and what you want it to be. And then number two, practice your conversations, right? Use script practice. Keep in mind, if you're not practicing your scripts, that means you're practicing on your clients, right? Everyone get that? And I do not want to be the person that is practicing on my clients. Okay, moving on to page 12. So next, we're going to look at ways to improve conversion rates. Once you understand what your conversion rate is, you can move from E to P. So does everyone remember the E to P from day one?
I don't.
Okay, so it's one of our 6 personal perspectives, right? So moving from entrepreneur to purposeful. This is when you get more purposeful in improving your conversion rate, gaining insight, and getting more purposeful will help bring you more closed transactions. Some activities that you can engage in to improve your conversion rates might look like this. Time block for lead conversion. Never erase it, always replace it, right? So if you can't do it today, or if you can't do it this morning, do it this afternoon. Use conversions and systems. Practice conversions, dialogues, asking for the close, mastering buyer and seller presentations and relationships. Conversations are a powerful tool that can help you say what you intend to say in the most powerful and impactful way. Use systems that support lead gen or lead conversion in your business. Systems make sure that that you take the right steps at the right time and continue to gain mind share. Don't neglect any part of your database. Reconnect with each person when you do ask for referrals, right? So conversion activities are not just for leads, they're also for your SOIs we've been talking about, throughout the day. Come from care, curiosity, and contribution, and get back in relationship with past clients. Never be afraid, right? Like if you haven't talked to somebody for a long time, that's fine. Call them up, reintroduce yourself, have a conversation with them. Know who to prioritize. And then there's going to be an upcoming session, lead follow-up segment, that you're going to learn how to prioritize your potential clients, prioritize converting those qualified leads while still working on the rest of your database. All right, moving on to page 13 of your participant guide. Every lead has the potential to turn into a business. And as you have already heard, there are no bad leads, right? With the lead conversion model, you learn to, number one, capture the appropriate information so that you can connect with your leads. Number two, connect to assess their needs and establish a relationship. Number three, cultivate the relationship. Not all people will convert directly to an appointment, so use touch campaigns to stay top of mind. And then number four, close by asking for the appointment. Remember that you're in control of the ask, nobody else. I know I said this before, you guys, but I cannot stress this enough. You have to ask for the appointment because they're not going to ask you for it. What ahas do we have so far?
I think that when you're not practicing your scripts, you're practicing on your clients is a pretty big aha, just like mindset that you don't want to be practicing on your clients. So you should be practicing your scripts.
Exactly. Don't practice on your clients, right? What else?
I would also say that asking for the appointment because they're not going to ask you is another big one.
Yep. Make sure that you're the one asking for the appointment.
And if you don't ask, it's no anyways. So
what's up?
I said, and if you don't ask, it's no anyways.
Correct. Yeah. If you're not going to ask, you've already got the no, right? So what's the point in having the conversation to begin with? What else do we have? All right, so as we wrap up our learning session and transition to the success system, how do you feel? Do you feel like you understand the lead conversion model? Yes, no?
I feel like I have lots to practice.
That's good. Do you feel like you're getting closer to developing a system for capturing, cultivating, and closing leads?
I'm definitely working on it, but I feel like I still have a ways to go.
Hey, James.
How about looking at conversion rate? Oh, sorry, Eric.
Slide, like, was it 2 slides ago? What was that one? A couple slides back? I'm trying to remember. There's that one. I think this one right here. This was a key one, like, I think one of the challenges that we all face is that this first part of it, time blocking, we all think, oh, I'll just, it'll just happen naturally. And the truth is, like, with not only with lead generation, but if we're going to actually follow up and convert leads, man, like, I think that's one of the biggest hangups that a lot of us have is we don't really put time aside for that, right? I mean, and actually say, every day I'm going to look at what follow-ups I have that I need to try to talk to or convert, I'm going to do that every day at a certain time of my day. And if I don't have any, great, I'll just move on to my next task,
Exactly.
and
Does
of course,
everybody time blocking for lead gen time? I will tell you it's on my calendar.
I
Well-
have not been super great at it. I feel like a lot of my time is in
Mm.
training and classes. And in between that, I am a mom. So I am trying to fit it all in. I don't feel like I have spent enough time doing that. But definitely absorbing all the information. I need to be implementing it more, especially after the command thing earlier today. That was just like so much information. I have like 6 links that I have like saved in a note file to like go back and like look over that more. I just feel like that one training class was like 5 more hours of training that I need to go like do.
Yeah, I understand that. And it is really easy to get on that road where you feel like you've got a ton more training that you need to do before you start making your calls or before you start talking to clients. And that kind of goes back to what I was telling you guys earlier. I promise you, you can go out and you've had enough training to go out and start talking to people. You guys are smarter than the majority of the consumers out there when it comes to real estate. And so while yes, I completely encourage you to go out and learn and take the trainings and continue on the road that you're on, I'm also going to tell you to work some time and time block and do some lead gen, because really that is where you're going to learn the most, right? There's only so many objections that you're going to get. And once you, kind of stumble your way through those initially, right? And I understand that we're practicing scripts and we're doing the things we're supposed to, so we know how to respond to those objections. On the same note, I also understand, and again, like I said, I'm in a new role here too, right? So I know that I stumble a little bit initially. And the only way to get through that is to do it more and more.
I try and just keep telling myself that all these like really high top producing agents that like have their stuff together and know what they're doing, like they were all brand new at one point too. Like everyone was not like a beginner at some point.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I heard Colleen Benson tell the story to somebody Friday night about how she started as a server at Applebee's, right? Not really knowing what she was doing, just, somehow she was able to convince some of the managers there that they needed to buy a house. And that's how her career started, right? So we all start someplace.
Oh, I should have kept my survey. Just never go back.
Yeah, exactly.
Although that is a good side hustle, by the way, you guys. I mean, being like a bartender server in the right environment, that can be in this market particularly. You're bringing in a little bit of cash and you're in front of people all day having those conversations. So, I know you can't do everything time wise, yet don't be afraid of that kind of thing. That's not all bad.
Right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, Eric makes a great point, right? If you're in a situation where you need a dual career, right? Like you need something else to help you make money, get someplace where you're talking to people, right? So I've got a friend that owns a carpet cleaning business, and his carpet cleaning business has turned him into he's one of the top agents in Salt Lake City. And it's because he learned that a lot of times when people are having their carpets cleaned, they're having their carpets cleaned because they want to list their house, right? I've got another friend who's a landscaper, same thing. He uses his landscaping business to, hey, why are you suddenly sprucing up your yard, right? And a lot of times,
that is so smart. I have a phone call I need to make because I know a landscaper. I need to make a connection with him.
Yep, exactly.
Obviously, I'm not going to be a landscaper, but I can make a connection with somebody who is.
See, yep, there you go. Think about the referral sources that we talked about last week. Think about those people that you can contact and say, hey, I'm in real estate now, right? Think about those people in your SOI. And then those are the people that you're really going to follow up with, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was I think it was yesterday, we talked about the upstream model by Justin Stoddard talks about that. And, those kinds of businesses, like a landscaper, for example, it could be someone that is like, yeah, hey, I got this client that's doing a full overhaul in their yard. And, I got talking to them, and it sounds like they're actually doing it to sell, right? To make their house look nice. For us as realtors, finding those kinds of industries, those allied resources is a term we use, but finding those kinds of other professionals in whatever they do that have a connection to the consumer that will help, that we can support each other in that. So yeah, it's great. That's a great option. And then using systems, this number 2, by the way, on this conversion rate, I know you guys talked about it. That command con, since you brought it up earlier, was talking about that very thing, right? The Nikki Miller, who I work with on stuff, that's her whole gig. She's like, I don't want to just go out there and have to hustle all that myself. What if I just put systems in place? Why don't I utilize systems that are in place to actually start automating this stuff so that it happens? And she was able to build and has now a large kind of team set up because of that. So we spending a little bit of time late at night in between things or whenever, just working on your systems, picking up smart plans and command. That's a great way to leverage. It's the idea of leverage. So leverage the tools that are available to you, in particular for free right now, as you're starting out. Leverage those tools and create, systematized, automated, keep in touch programs.
Yes, I definitely need to figure that out because I have not done any of the smart plans yet. And I know all the optimization that I can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. So yeah, I want you guys to take the 6 connecting questions that we learned in the start of our meeting today and start applying them to your conversations, because it's amazing how you're going to deeper the relationships with those around you and increase your lead cultivation. Does anyone have any questions or any ahas before I let you go?
So as far as like time blocking, you would say you'd set up like your lead generation as a separate time block from your lead follow-up as a separate time block from your lead conversion. Is that correct?
So I will usually like lead gen as far as calling brand new people one day. And this is, by the way, just kind of my system. I will call new people one day, and then I'll save kind of my follow-ups for, like a Tuesday and Thursday, right? So I'll call new people like Monday, Wednesday, Fridays was usually my system. Sometimes on the weekends, or, if I was going to do an open house or whatever, and then I do my follow-up calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
I think that's a great thing about real estate is that you can just kind of set it up to fit how you, like what works for you. But for me in the beginning, I don't have it set up yet. And so I'm just feeling lost on like what's going to work best for me. And I guess that's just I'm going to have to kind of have some trial and error and figure that out going forward. But just hearing like how other people have it set up is helpful to kind of be like, oh, I think that would work for me. Or, oh, I might need to tweak that a little bit to figure out like my best setup.
In general, I think what most people do is they lead gen for a while and then follow up for a while and then do, like thank you cards to both groups. And that's a great way to do it as well. Like I said, I kind of got into a groove where I would, based on the day, would determine what type of phone calls I'm making.
Yeah, it's a great question though, because and what you're highlighting here, what Jameson's talking about is there's not like one way, right? At the end of the day, what we're just saying is you do need to make it a priority, right? So if you were highly effective at making 100 calls, let's just say in one day, and you just did that one day a week and you were able to just crank it out, nobody's going to like say, don't do that. I mean, right. If that's working, great. I know, and I actually had a team years ago where I had part of my team model was like part-time moms. I mean, I'd essentially, because I gave them the flexibility and the tools to be able to do stuff around, the schedule of having very young kids, right? And so we just worked on how to figure out spots in your schedule that, like a nap time, say, okay, my baby's down for a nap from this time to this time, or I've got help when somebody's home, or I've got this available to me at this time. you know, and then just say, every day I'm gonna at least spend 15 or 20 minutes making sure if I need to follow up with anybody or get back to anybody, that'll be my priority for that time, you know, every day or whatever those days are, right? And just make sure that those are your priorities. You know, you lead gen with some sort of lead generation, even if it's 2 calls, just get something done. And then I'm going to follow up if I had any questions from anybody, and at least I can say I got those things done in the day, and then whatever else happens, you know. These are just it's the priorities. It's prioritization of those things as being critically important to the success of your business, essentially. You know.
Yep.
That's it. I mean, you can hire the transaction coordinator, not that we really let you do that as a new agent. Yeah, that is something somebody else can do. You can hire out other things, but it's really hard to hire out making a call to people, you know, you know, and then following up with them when they ask you a question. You just have to do it. You know?
Yeah, like I said in the beginning, follow-ups where the money is, guys.
For lead gens, since like some of us, like I work like 8 to 5 and I don't get home until 6. If I get a lead, do you think like calling after a certain point is like too late?
Not at all.
No.
No. Use the old you know, psychology of when people get, you know, you say, hey, I'm in an appointment right now or something. You don't have to tell everybody your personal schedule. So if you're going to your kid's doctor's appointment, you have an appointment. If you're going to your kid's soccer game, you have an appointment, you know, right? I mean, if you're on a date with your husband or your wife, that's an appointment, right? So
I just don't want like people, if I get one and I call them at 6:30 for them to be like, oh, why are you calling me so late?
so reach
What if
out,
that would?
say like, hey, I got your message. Can I call you back at 6 this evening, or would, you know,
10 minutes.
Okay.
whatever sometime be better, right? So just that kind of thing, like give them a couple of options. That's
Oh, do
typical.
Okay. I just didn't know if some people don't really like to be called at a certain point when they're also probably getting home from work and like relaxing and might not want to be bugged with a bunch of like sales calls.
Yeah,
So-
you know, well, I don't know. Go ahead, Jameson.
Well, I was just going to say, does everyone know the company Inman yet? So if you don't know who Inman is, Inman does, they put out all sorts of studies on our market. And Inman did a study a few years ago saying that Tuesday and Wednesday nights between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. is the time that you're likely to get the best response as far as people not only being home, but also being willing to have a conversation with you, right? That doesn't mean it's the only time to prospect, but certainly that tells us that when people get home from work, they're willing to talk to you, right?
That's definitely good to know because I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what I was told by a friend of mine, my former broker in Las Vegas, when I first got into the sell side of real estate, and he was talking about Keller's model, and he was talking about lead gen in the morning, and I said, gosh, is 9 a.m. really the best time to lead gen? And he looked at me and he said, the best time to lead gen is the time you're doing it.
Okay.
And he's right. I mean, I've done lead gen. I mean, other than, you know, after about 8 p.m., I've done lead gen all day, right? Like I've done it on Saturdays, I've done it on Sundays. And guess what, you guys? It works. You're always going to find somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, he's absolutely right. I mean, that Jameson hit the nail on the head. It's doing it is what's most important. If you were 100% committed to having that task get done sometime between this time, like during an 8 or 10 hour day, then sure, you could pick times of the day that on certain days based on stats and based on, you know, research, yeah, there are times when people are more likely to be on Facebook at certain times in the mid-morning and certain days of the week. And, you know, other times, sure, those stats exist. Yet, if you're not doing it because you're waiting to do it at those times, that's worse than doing it at the next best time. I mean, really, you know?
Yep.
So
Yep, exactly right.
And the thing is, remember the psychology of stuff. Like, so what you communicated is, of Courtney, is that you're thinking about, oh, I don't know, I don't want to bug somebody. And
Yeah.
that's for all of us, we have to be careful to not place our own like framework or fears or things that we do or don't like. Like, I don't like it when people knock on my door. Well, guess what? You may not like it, but other people don't mind. And so what we need to do is say, well, even though I may not like it, I still have to understand that there's other people that don't mind that. And so
That's
we have to look
actually
at it.
how I am, because I had open houses this weekend and I didn't know if I wanted to do door knocking, because for personally, I don't like when people knock on my door. I'm like, I don't know who you are. Please leave me alone.
Right. Yeah.
So
And
that's a good point.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that what you personally, how you believe about that or what's important, it doesn't make that any less or, more or less important. It's just that we have to know that it for someone else, that may not be their truth. That may not be the thing that bugs them. And so if we're not serving them well, if we're only doing it within the confines of what works for us or what we think is best for us, so just, and the way we can honor people in that is to ask questions. That's what I guess what I would communicate is
Okay.
ask questions. So if you reach out and say, hey, I got your message, through like a text or some kind of electronic thing that you maybe can follow up during the day, just say, hey, I got your message. I'm in an appointment. Can I follow up with, you at 6 o'clock tonight, or would you prefer, like doing on your lunch the next day or whatever, find another time, give them choices. Say, or just even ask, would it be okay if I follow up at 6 tonight or 7 tonight? Or would Saturday morning be better? And let them choose. The thing is, people will choose if you give them a couple options that work for you, and they'll feel like because you give them choice, they have agency in it. Because they have agency in it, they're receptive to whatever you're offering. And you'll find that people will actually, they'll be fine with that, even if it was a less desirable thing for them, because you gave them choices, So just remember that if you give people choices, even if it's what you might think they might not like, if they approve it, hey, they said, yeah, go ahead and call me at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, like Jameson said, doing it is better than not.
Yeah.
Whenever you do it.
Yeah, whenever you do it is the best time to do it. And yeah, absolutely do it. Absolutely. Anything else? All right, Eric, do you have anything else?
No? Go forth
Well,
and
I guess
prosper, y'all.
I guess we can give y'all back 15 or 19 minutes of your day. All right, thanks, everyone.
Make it a great day.
Thank you.
Sorry I left you hanging, brother.